Hello and welcome to Ones to Watch, powered by Football Index, where you bet on the football stock market by buying shares in the world's top players. I'm joined, as always, by Sir Alan McInally. How are we, Al?
Hi, Emma. How are you?
I'm good. Cheers, are you?
Good. Yeah, all good. Yeah, looking forward to this one. I've got a couple in that we could have had in our Ones to Watch every week, and one that maybe hasn't lived up to the bill. We'll let people tell us what they think.
Let's get stuck in then. Who's our first one to watch?
Well, the first one is most definitely the first on the team sheet. He scored a brilliant overhead kick, and his name is Michail Antonio, and he could at any time be one to watch for us. He's very, very important to David Moyes' team, and I think over the last probably year and a half, I think he's getting better. I genuinely do, and he's carrying the weight of West Ham on his shoulders, and he's done it pretty well.
He certainly has. He joined West Ham for £7 million from Nottingham Forest as a winger. And if we have a look at his stats so far this season, Al played 6 games, scored 3 goals. And his minutes per goal, 162 minutes per goal. Not bad, that, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, it's only 6 games into after all. But I think if you look at his overall play in terms of what he brings to the team, his goals for me so early in the season are kind of immaterial. But he's been involved in almost every goal I think they score, to be honest. There's not many times that you see him not giving his best for West Ham, which is all you can ask of a football player. And I think of all the West Ham fans, of which can be pretty critical of some of the players, I think they absolutely adore Michail Antonio, and rightly so, because he gives you absolutely everything. He is really strong. He's good in the air, and he can, he does things on his own at times and takes the pressure off the team. He's just a wonderful, wonderful football player. He really is, and I genuinely think he's getting better. I mean, I don't think he's got an England cap yet, but I think it's only a matter of time.
How important do you think he is to that West Ham side, Al?
Well, I think he's, like I said, I think his first name on the team sheet, and I think he's important in terms of giving everybody else confidence, because when they're under a little bit of pressure, they know if they need to clear the ball into wider areas, he ain't going to just go like that and watch it landing and they get the ball. He'll chase it down and he'll harry and he'll buy them time. And he's as important. In fact, I would probably say out with naturally the goalkeeper, which is such a specialised position, I'd say he's the most important player in West Ham's team.
And obviously it's early days this season, but you mentioned that overhead kick against Man City. What do you think of the quality of his goals as well?
Yeah, well, he does them all. He does the tap-ins, he shoots from 3,000 yards, he headers the ball from the edge of the box, and he has that little bit of quality, because the other day, the other day wasn't just about an overhead kick. The other day was about his strength in holding the defender off, buying himself that yard, and as the ball's coming towards him, the defender doesn't know he's going to overhead kick it, but Michail Antonio knew what he was going to do. So he's already thinking that little bit ahead of what's happening. He's just brilliant. He really is. He's a fantastic football player. And if he can stay fit for West Ham, then West Ham won't be worried about being at the bottom end of the league table that they have the last couple of seasons.
And how does he compare, in your opinion, Al, to Sebastian Haller, who cost 45 million from Frankfurt?
Yeah, he costs a lot of money. To be fair, he did well at Eintracht Frankfurt, Sebastian Haller. Scored a few goals. He's a different kind of player, because I think Sebastian Haller needs Michail Antonio almost to be in wider areas, getting the ball into the box for him to score goals. And, he hasn't held the ball up for when the ball goes forward in that final third. I want to see Sebastian Haller get the ball, keep it, give it, and he hasn't been doing that. They're different players. If you give me a choice, I'd take Michail Antonio all day long. There's no question about that.
Well, we can see a direct comparison here for so far this season. Sebastian Haller has played, for the 19-20 season, he's played 41 games and scored 12 goals. Antonio, 24 games and 10 goals. That kind of speaks for itself, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I mean, he's still important to the team, Sebastian Haller, because they did spend a lot of money on him, West Ham, and they want him to come good. They want him to be almost playing up top, maybe with Michail Antonio. And I'd imagine during the season we'll see part of that. It just seems most of the time at the moment Sebastian Haller's not really a starter. He's more of a bit player for them, but they're hoping every time the ball comes into the box, he gets his shooting boots on, and he's 45 million is well spent. At the moment in time, he's still got questions to answer, Sebastian Haller, whereas Michail Antonio keeps answering questions for me, and I genuinely think he is a bona fide one to watch, and I think we should be watching just how his season goes.
Well, that is exactly what we are doing. Feel free, as always, to have your say in the comments below. Right then, Al, who is our second one to watch this week?
One of my favourite players, Played with Atletico Madrid, unbelievable football team. Played at Benfica, which means you carry the weight of almost the whole country on you. Benfica is almost the Portuguese team. I know that a lot of people think it's Porto between the two of them. And his name is Raúl Jiménez, and he plays for Wolverhampton Wanderers. He is probably in the top 3 strikers in the Premier Division. That's how good he is, Emma.
And if you're looking at Manchester United, for example, if they had 100 mil to spend in the summer, would you have spent 70 mil on Jimenez?
Manchester United, I think you and I spoke about this actually privately, and I'd said to you about this. I cannot believe that Manchester United did not try to get Raúl Jiménez. Now, they may have had inquiries, and there is absolutely no question in my mind, because I hold him in such high regard, Raúl Jiménez. I mean, he scored a goal at the weekend. It was a great goal. But he scores it from outside the box because he must have been thinking, I need to try and get myself a bit of space. I'll come to the edge of the box, chest control, volleys it straight in the top corner. Although, having said that, it was only enough to get them a point, as I think it was Newcastle equalised late on from a free kick. But they must have had inquiries for Raúl Jiménez. We didn't hear an awful lot about it. And your question too was, if you had 100 million, if you're Manchester United, who were linked with plenty of players, why in God's name did they not go for Raúl Jiménez? I don't get it.
Would you?
I don't get it for.
You had that.
By the way, I don't know if they can get. I don't know if they're getting them for 70 million, Emma. I'm thinking you're talking maybe the whole of the 100 million. I think he's such a good football player. He's a better football player. He's got almost everything. He's a good passer. He can run. He can score goals. He's a very, very good striker. And the main thing I was talking about Manchester United was, I think he gets in the Manchester United team. I really do. I think he'd take the weight off of Marcus Rashford's shoulders for sure. And I think he would have been a fantastic signing. And I can't believe, in my opinion, that Manchester United missed a trick and should have spent money and tried to get Raúl Jiménez.
Is it a similar situation, do you think, to Spurs with the Harry Kane situation, where whoever signed is signed as a backup, basically?
I think if he goes to Spurs, that would be a difficult one for him, because I think Harry Kane is the number one guy. He's the captain, he's the main man, and I think we've already seen early season form after Harry's injury that Harry's back again and has that wonderful relationship with Son. And if Spurs had spent the money on Raúl Jiménez, they might have tried to, horseshoe him in there somewhere. But I don't see that for Spurs being, I'm sure they would love to have him in the team, but in terms of the money they had to spend, they wanted to spend it elsewhere, which a lot of people could now say, well, Alan, defensively, Manchester United haven't been good. We should have been looking to bring in the defender. But I just don't understand why the biggest club in the world, so-called, doesn't try and get, in my opinion, one of the best strikers in the Premiership, who would definitely be a starter at Manchester United and would certainly make them a better team.
I mean, he seems perfectly happy, doesn't he, at Wolves? But obviously he's played for some big clubs. Do you think in the back of his mind he will be thinking, I want to go to a bigger club at some point?
Well, you make a good point. He doesn't seem unhappy at Wolves. You're absolutely right, Emma. He seems fine. Everything's going the right way. Wolverhampton Wanderers are a very good football team, and they have European ambitions again with a very good manager. Every football player at that level wants to go as high as they possibly can. End of. Even if, when I was playing, and 10 years ago, etc., if you have an opportunity to go to a bigger football club with huge ambitions, as every football player should have, then he will, of course, have those ambitions. At the moment in time, things seem to be okay. But I don't believe for 1 minute that he wouldn't have been. Certainly, his head would have been turned had Manchester United decided he's our man. And I use Manchester United as an example because at the time, I think you and I were talking about. I said I don't understand why they don't try and get him. But then you could probably throw in another 4, 5, 6, 7 really big clubs in Europe that have been dying to take him. Whether or not, of course, the price tag was going to be too much, and maybe that's why he's still a Wolverhampton Wanderers player, which is great news for Wolves, by the way.
Yeah, it certainly is. And the stats back him up as well. So far this season, let's have a look at this. He's played 6 games, scored 4 goals, 135 minutes played per goal. His goal participation has been 66%. And if we have a look as well, since joining in 2019, he's played 82 games, scored 34 goals, provided 14 assists. And there's other stats there as well, again, that just cement exactly what you've been saying about the importance of him.
Yeah, and listen, the stats of the goals for a striker is obviously one of the main things. Like, genuinely, his overall play for Wolverhampton Wanderers is brilliant. I mean, again, we spoke about Michail Antonio being important to the team in terms of confidence. When Raúl Jiménez is available for Wolves, they're a different team. They're a different team. They trust him. They give him the ball. It doesn't matter where he is. They'll give him the ball. The goal stats are good, but I think his overall stats for Wolves are just sensational. I'll tell you something else I think about him. He's a brilliant football player. Brilliant football player. Not just about being in the box. You know, and listen, I think Wolves are lucky to have him. I think he's a fantastic guy, and he's doing the right things at the right place.
He certainly is, and that is why he's our second one to watch. Feel free, as always, to have your say. Give us your thoughts in the comments below. Final one, then, Al. Who is our third one to watch?
Well, you know, I'm more of the positive guy, and although when we were speaking about who I could put in as my third one, he so far is unconvincing. He's an Arsenal player now, and you're going to tell me how much they cost, and I can't remember, but his name is Alexandre Lacazette. He's our third one to watch today. For the simple reason that I think a lot is expected of Alexandre Lacazette. How much did they spend? Well, I know he came from France, came from Lyon.
50 mil they spent on him.
Was it 50 million?
50 million.
Well, that's a lot of money. Would you say they've had 50 million worth so far? I don't know. Maybe. First season was half decent. I just think there's a football player in there. There genuinely is. And Arteta must be like, come on, you know, I'm changing the philosophy here at this football club. You know, he's bringing in parties. You know, he's got Aubameyang. He's got some good young players. And when he plays Lacazette, I don't know, he just seems just wholly unconvincing. I don't know what it is about him. But, you know, it's only him that can change that.
Well, I mean, we have a look at his stats since joining Arsenal in 2017. He's played 134 games, scored 51 goals, provided 25 assists. He's been subbed on 30 times and subbed off 56 times. So is there an argument, Al, that maybe he should be playing 90 minutes more often?
Well, that would help. It would help him as well. It's not nice when you're playing. Well, I'll tell you what, how many times have we watched an Arsenal game and you think, Arsenal need to make a change, it's not happening? Lacazette off. That's honestly, and by the way, it's not me. I would say the majority of the Arsenal fans would probably think, yeah, he's not doing it again today. You know, subbed off 56 times and subbed. You know, he was sat on the bench 30 of those, or rather of the games that he played. I think he said 134. That's quite a lot. So things haven't gone for him at Arsenal the way he'd hoped, or probably Arsenal for that matter. And certainly giving Arsenal everything and giving them 90 minutes is not something he seems almost capable of doing, or whether his manager at the time, you know, is convinced that, you know, he might be one of the first or second substitutes made in the game. I mean, I suppose it's a little different now with, you know, you can make 5 subs, etc., whatever it is. But he just is still a little bit unconvincing for me at Arsenal that he's going to be as good as, you know, the £50 million they spent on him.
Well, his 2017-18 season, his first season, was definitely his best. He played 32 games and scored 14 goals. Do you think the change in managers hasn't really helped him?
Yeah, that's a really good point, Emma, actually. I hadn't thought of that one. I'm glad you brought that up, because not all players are beloved by the new manager that's coming in, and maybe they think, oh, well, he'll be first out the door. I don't want to keep him. He's still there, though. You know, he's still an Arsenal player. He's still part of the squad, but that's just about it. He's only part of the squad. You know, Aubameyang's a starter, Partey's a starter, etc., etc. Tierney's a starter, fullback. You couldn't say that Lacazette is always a starter. And maybe, I don't know, maybe he's thinking, we'll see how this season goes, and whether or not he'll be at Arsenal next year, we'll find out.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, because he's a financial asset, really. So is Michail Arteta looking at him and going, do you know what, we could free up some funds there for the future? Yeah,
maybe, absolutely. I mean, they ain't getting 50 million for him, Emma, are they? There's no way, Emma, they will get 50 million for Lacazette. What would they get? Maybe they might get the guts of 28, 25, 30 million. He might even be one of those players that goes out on loan. But I would think that Arsenal would probably say, no, we want to sell him off the books and, like you say, raise some funds for other deals that they might want to do. I think he's most certainly an asset. Listen, there's a football player in there. Alexandre Lacazette didn't get signed for 50 million from Lyon for nothing. But so far at Arsenal, it just hasn't gone the way he's wanted it to. He will still play a decent part in Arsenal's season, I'm sure. But to be first name on the team sheet, he has to give Arsenal a little bit more. He's still a goal threat, but I don't see him as Arteta's main man, and that's something that only Alexandre Lacazette can change.
Certainly is. Right then, Arsenal fans, feel free to have your say in the comments below. That's it for Ones to Watch this week. Thank you very much, Al.
Thanks, Emma. That was brilliant.
Cheers for joining us, and thank you for joining us here with Football Index, where you bet on the football stock market by buying shares in the world's top players. We'll see you next week.